Welcome to another episode of Unmasked, the podcast that peels away the layers to uncover the stories, insights, and experiences that shape our journey of growth. I'm your host, Bindhu, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Preeti Wale Sagar, a remarkable individual whose journey has been defined by breaking boundaries and embracing discomfort as a catalyst for learning and transformation. Preeti is not just an advocate of pushing boundaries, she's an embodiment of it. In fact, she just recently pushed boundaries and shifted continents. Her path has been one of continuous self discovery, and she's here to share her wisdom, challenges, and triumphs with us. Today's episode invites us to explore the uncharted territories of personal development. We delve into the concept of stepping out of our comfort zones to willingly seek moments that challenge us and discover how these discomforts can be our most powerful teachers. Throughout this conversation, we learn how Preeti has harnessed the potential hidden within discomfort, turning it into a driving force for her own growth. We'll hear stories of how she's overcome obstacles, embraced vulnerability, and sought assistance along the way, all contributing to her journey of evolution. Preeti, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me over on this podcast. It's a lovely forum to reach so many people, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
I'm super excited too. And we're going to start with the question of who am I speaking to? Who is Preeti? So, can you just give us an introduction in terms of your journey, where you started, who you are, where you grew up, anything that you'd like us to know, and we'll start from that place.
Okay. Uh, it's very broad. So I'm Preeti. Uh, Full name is Preeti Wale Sagar. That's how I would like to be known as. That includes my maiden name and my married name. Um, I grew up partially in India and in Dubai. Um I have a very interesting journey when it comes to Dubai. Uh, I was born here, went back to India again for a very brief period, came back here when I was 11, did not like it over here at, at 11. And that's when I made a choice that I would like to go back to India. So I studied, went back, I studied. And then there was no reason for me to stay back. So my parents were here. And that is when I came here in 2003, got a job, fell in love, and there was no looking back. So that's history. Um, yeah, so here I am, 20 years from the time I actually, started living continuously in Dubai. Um, I took up my first job in 2003 in the Emirates Group. I worked with them. That is where I developed an understanding that a company comprises of many divisions, and one of the ones that I loved going to was the learning and development. That's where I found that this could be something very interesting that I could take on as my career, and that was a turning point. That was another turning point. There have been many of them. With this turning point, I decided to change my career. So 6 months, 6 years down the line, I still gave it 6 years. I did what I was doing. I pursued, I went for a course in learning and development, got certified, and then I started looking for good opportunities. And that was when, hospitality came along. So I worked with Rotana for almost 5 years as a learning and development professional. That was an absolute fun journey. Um, the first time that I was a learning and development person, and the first time in hospitality. So that was great. From there, I moved to Retail, luxury retail. That's where I started my role as a learning and development professional once again. But in the middle was a big milestone again. That is where I studied to become a coach. So I got certified with CTI, which is Coactive Training Institute, also with the ICF. So I became certified with them. Um, I figured that, I could do this as another small detour of my learning and development journey. But obviously, I still had a great appetite to go out and work and, have that sort of an identity, which I continued. And then my very recent role was with another company, which is a famous one again over here in Dubai, Dubai Holding. I helped them with their ERP implementation, but all in training and development space, which I love. I love the fact that we all have this amazing amount of potential, which is so untapped. Just almost like an analogy I would like to use, where we talk about the brain, we only take 5% or 5% of the brain is used in a conscious fashion, and 95% of it that is untapped. And I feel pretty much the same about our potential as well. There's so much that is possible for each one of us to do. And that's probably was my starting point when I ventured out in learning and development. So that's a little about my professional journey so far. On the personal front, as I said, fell in love. That continued. That love still continues. Married for almost 16 years. I have two beautiful children. Dealing with a teenager, 14-year-old, and an 8-year-old. So that's a little about my personal life. Um, and yeah, this is pretty much what makes up my life right now, as an individual. I think that was a pretty long introduction. I guess, Bindhu, you know who you're speaking to now.
Yay! So while you mentioned your journey, I wanted to kind of deep dive into a couple of areas that you mentioned.
Okay.
You said there were a couple of places where your milestones, where your life moved, and you said this was one of them. So could you kind of tell me what were those turning points in your life that where you reached a signal and then you take a right or a left or a straight and then there's no reverse. You just keep going forward. So what are those points in your life as you look back?
There have been many actually, and I probably may not be able to recollect all of them, but as you were asking that question, I think what came up was whenever I have felt a little discomfort. And when I say that, obviously, it's not just physical discomfort, but this doesn't feel right. I am not happy. I'm not okay. And that was like the first indicator into things need to change. I think I got that first indicator when I was 13. 11 to 13 is when I mentioned that I was not happy over here. Obviously, the Dubai today is completely unimaginable from the Dubai I'm talking about at that time. So that was totally different. So as a child, obviously, being in confined space, being to school and then bus and then come back home, and that was pretty much my life. But it was very different than India. That is where it felt like this is not okay. And at 13, I decided to make that decision, which even today, if I look back, and I feel like, oh my God, like, how could my parents let me do that? I wouldn't let my 13-year-old do that. So there came a point where I said, you know what, you guys can live here in Dubai. I'm going back. I do not want to live here. And I'm so grateful actually that they supported me, not just my parents, but my brother, who I decided to go and live with, and his wife. They supported me in that decision as well. And that's pretty much why you're seeing the Preeti you're seeing, literally. So that shaped my entire life. So at 13, when I decided to go back, I continued living with them. I continued my school over there. So that was a big, big, big milestone in my life. The other few milestones I would say is again, that change of career where I felt like, no, there's more that I can do. There's more that I can learn, I can do, I can influence people with. That was another turning point, and I had reached that T junction, as you may want to call it, where I had to take a call and say that it's a right or a left. Um, I think that was that. And then very broadly speaking, I'm probably at one right now as well, where I am there's a huge uh, life change that I'm going to be experiencing very soon in a couple of months because I'm leaving Dubai once again. So that's a big turning point as well. And each of these milestones obviously have been with this extremely strong belief that something needs to change, something can be better, um, and that things deserve to be better. And it's that has been the fuel behind these turning points, these milestones, and obviously the action that goes with it.
Right, right. Wow, that's lovely. So I want to touch base on the discomfort that you started talking about, like when you feel that discomfort and it's not physical discomfort. And you also mentioned that there's that belief that things need to change and things need to change for the better. So tell me about this discomfort and this belief.
I think if I go back to what was uncomfortable for me, I would say so. This coaching journey helped me really look beneath the surface.
Mhm.
And that was where I figured out, oh, why did I leave home at 13? That's a pretty radical thing for a teenager to do back in those times, I would say.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously, you have social media, you have phones, you have such amazing communication channels, which did not exist back in time. Um, so, coming back to the question you've asked me, uh, I would say that discomfort is whenever you are not, and I would put myself into it, I was not in line with my values. A few of my values are, and the most important ones, crucial ones that I can't live without is freedom. Uh, you might even call it independence, but freedom is what I would like to go with. Um, the second is health, which has come up. No, I can't call it recent, but in the last decade or so. That's another one. Uh, the third one, I would call it abundance, but abundance in just not in terms of wealth, but generally, it could be even um, the abundance of possibilities, uh, thoughts, conversations. I do feel like a little uncomfortable when people are only talking about limitations and only talking about how they are victimized and that things can't be changed and there is absolutely no way out of this. So that goes back to that value of abundance. So that discomfort is wherever I have felt like things, situations, people have uh, made me step over those values and those values are not being honored. That was my first, it was like almost like a compass, an indicator that no, this needs to change, this is not okay. It almost feels like um, as if you don't have the breathing space, claustrophobic. I mean, that could be a physical representation of that feeling, but that's discomfort. I mean, that's going back to your first question. The second one, I would say, where you asked that there's something more and there's something better, there's more potential, there's better things can happen. And it's always that, right? Like when you're in that dark room, when you're confined to nothing but a small little box. I mean, let's put it metaphorically or stuck in a place which is obviously dark, cold, there's no ray of hope, what you would look for is the extreme end of that I mean the good end of that, in a way that you could think of possibilities, you could think of things that could be better. This doesn't feel okay, but how long am I going to victimize myself, and how long am I going to sulk and complain about it? I need to do something. And one thing I've realized are in my journey and through these milestones is there's nobody that's going to help you. I say that with all due respect to all the lovely people I have in my life. They are there to help, they're there to support. However, the action needs to be taken by me. Until and unless I don't choose to make that call, nobody can help me. I have to raise my hand up to say that, guys, I'm uncomfortable. I'm not okay. I need help. Uh, there's a funny thing actually I would like to state here with that help bit is I never knew that that quality exists in the way I work or the way I conduct life. But it was actually acknowledged by she was an amazing colleague of mine. I would love to take her name, but can't thanks to confidentiality, but she's an amazing human being. And she was the one to observe this, that Preeti never hesitates from asking for help. And that is an amazing quality that I've found in her. This was a part of my farewell speech, probably. Um, but I think I learned this in my first job, where I was, I mean, obviously you would start at not a supervisory level. So my supervisors used to say at that time that, the moment you feel that you can't handle something, just raise your hand, just call out. There is help required, and help will be there. And there is no harm, shame in asking for it. And I think I've been pretty open about it, that I need help. I need people to help me. I need solution. And that's probably my dialogue with the universe as well. Whenever I'm uncomfortable, I'm very open about it, that guys, come and help me. Whoever you guys are, just come and help. And um, no surprise, no, nothing wonderful about it. But the fact is that it does come. The help comes. And that's what I've noticed. It's a beautiful thing. It's very much unsaid. It's very much unexplored. There's no scientific backing to that. I can't prove that. But whenever I have asked for help, it has come. And it's just an amazing feeling. I have some amount of faith and trust in that happens, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful because it's not something that will be in the shape and the form that you like, but it will be something much more beautiful than that. I think I've gone off topic a lot. Bindhu, please bring me back.
No, I love what you're talking about, trusting the universe and asking for help. Because I think, and this is, I think, talking for a majority of us, is that asking for help doesn't come easily. And there could be that ego comes in the way, or how can, if I ask for help, I'll be perceived as weak. And I've asked this as well too, and I've faced it at some point. And I'm like, what's wrong? And I've also, on the other side, I've felt that when somebody asks me for help, I love it. I'm like,
Yes,
just that act of, oh wow. And then I'm like, my heart is full just listening to that.
exactly.
Then I wonder, and this is a question for us to think about, and I would love to hear what you think, is that where do you think this has come up in terms of our hesitancy
Yeah.
to ask for help? And did you have to overcome it, or this is just who you are?
I think that's a very good question. Where does that come up from? A lot of it is, like you said, we've been there's like a cultural stigma around it, probably as growing up as certain cultural groups, we could call it. But I think it's a pretty universal thing. It's pretty global that help is not is- asking for help is not seen as a good thing by that individual. I don't think I would have that kind of an opinion about anybody else, but I would have that opinion for myself. There's a lot that goes, there's a lot that can be attributed to conditioning
Mm.
of people. I would also give a little, uh, I mean, a little of this can be also attributed to, your childhood, the way you were as a child. Maybe you were the youngest of the siblings. Maybe you were the oldest of the siblings. I do see certain traits of that first child, and it's I feel sad at times because um, very organically these people are expected to fetch for themselves, and not, the classic thing, if they are boys, do not cry, do not ask for help, you can do it, you're strong, you can make it. So the whole gender perspective also can't be ignored over here. The masculinity that people rely on so much, which also plays a big role. So there are so many things, I would say, where it comes from.
Mm.
Not a very healthy thing. Again, if we were to look at the other end of the spectrum, where people just victimize and where people say, there's nobody to help me, and that's also not a good place to be in. And constantly leaving it to people or leaving it to circumstances and all of that is also not a good place to be in. So the place which I am leaning on is um, a healthy um, thought of it's possible. You
Mm.
know, this is um, this is doable. This is possible. This is not the first time somebody is facing this. People have faced issues bigger than these, and I have the power to overcome this. And if I need to, help is welcome. I would love for somebody to come and share their perspective. I would love to hear what the other person has to say. And also, in terms of opinions, I have learned one thing, that there can be varying opinions on certain things. And how much you want to take in is really your uh, your power. You decide that. Nobody gets to decide that for you.
Yeah.
So that's an important place, and that's an important consideration as well to make while you're seeking help.
Hmm. Got it. Got it.
Another thing that's coming up, sorry, Bindu, for this, is being in this sphere of coaching, healing, therapy. This is another place where many people are. I can see a healthy growth in the talks about I'm going for therapy and I am seeking help. I love those people who do that. They do that for themselves. It's a favor that
Mm.
they are doing for themselves, literally, because I had heard this phrase sometime back that you go for therapy because you've been influenced or affected by a person who chose not to go for it.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah,
a good one.
so
Yeah.
it's almost like a person who did not want to take help, um, is not able to help somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. True. That's a lovely
Yeah.
one.
I'm sure there's a polished version of it. I probably didn't do justice to the phrase.
Correct. It's a good perspective. I love it. So tell me give me an incident where you actually were in that place of asking for help, and the universe just helped you.
Ah, there have been so many tiny ones actually that I can think of, but I mean, I can't think of anything that is like really big or significant.
It doesn't have to be big and significant.
I'm sure there is. I mean, I'm sure there is somewhere in the corner of my mind, but something that happens on a daily basis, Bindu, you'd laugh at it, and people would also might, wonder where is this woman coming from? But something as simple as finding a parking. Or finding, I think every woman goes through this while getting ready. What should I wear? It's literally that unseen, unheard order that I make to the universe when I'm getting ready. Please find me something really good, you know? Or the moment I'm about to park, I'm like, please find me a parking, like a good one. The other day, it was a very weird incident, actually, a funny one. And there I said to myself again that you got to be specific in what you're asking. So I asked for a parking. And I passed the mall entrance, the entrance where I was supposed to go from. I passed that and I was like, how come it's not working today? Like, why am I not finding it? So I continued driving and I went past a few meters down that road, down that lane, and then I found one. I was like, seriously, you could do better than that. Like, why this parking? So the voice was like, you did not ask for a parking close to the entrance. You just asked for a parking. So yes, going back to that whole law of attraction thing that you got to be specific. But I mean, I'm not gonna refer to that because there's a whole lot of um, you know, uh things attached to that law of attraction bit. But this is something really simple, and one after the other, when you get that evidence, you know that, what this is, there is something, someone listening to me.
Mm.
And yes, it's going to happen, and it has happened way too many times for me to now go back and say, no, this is just fluff, this is just woo woo, and it doesn't
Mm.
work that way. So yeah, and again, the gap between making small things happen versus big things happen is myself, is my limitation to believing that.
Yeah.
So if I can find a parking, I can maybe find a job, or I can find a business class ticket, or whatever it is, or um, a beautiful home, whatever that is. It goes back again to myself and my belief. There may be something stopping that in my belief system,
Mm.
nothing other than that.
So how is, tell me something more about your belief systems. You talked about your values, and I'm curious to know about the beliefs.
Uh, what about my beliefs? So I
Tell me
could I could do with a little bit of a doorway.
so tell me some things that you very strongly believe in, and you um, tell yourself every single day. It's like who you are.
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, I have this strong belief in healing myself. Um, Obviously, I mean, I have studied healing as well, theta healing. Um, but I know it's nothing special that I have. I do have a channel through which I can heal, or be a channel myself to heal myself or to somebody else. But anybody and everybody can do it. So each person is capable of healing themselves. And that goes back to our belief system, whether we believe it in it or not. Again, a small example of like how I have, you know, asked for help. Um, for the past maybe 3 or 4 years, I haven't given in to a paracetamol if I have a headache or a small backache or I have sprained my neck or whatever. I do not go to the medicine cabinet immediately. I would probably sit and ask, I just need this to be fixed. I want my headache to go. Sometimes it's really, I mean, because we always want that kind of an evidence, there has to be something that I might be doing. There has to be something. So, you know, that, I mean, obviously that goes on in my mind as well. So, something really small and tiny that happens when I sit and I completely am silent inside and outside, which is my thoughts are silent and I am in a silent place, is I notice that there is, um, I'm probably straining a lot of muscles out here. So the moment I say that I need to just like, you know, um, relax my forehead, I would say 25 to 30% of the pain goes down there itself. And then obviously whatever is going on will settle slowly. But the point I'm trying to make here is it's no rocket science. It's no big deal. Everybody can do it. So that's my number one belief. I think that goes ties down very well to my value of health as well, that we all can heal ourselves. And again, here's a big important thing that I would like to say is that doesn't mean that I'm going to be all powerful and I will be making it happen, because there comes the ego then. So I'm not saying that I am the one or you are the one. We do need to take a proper call. We need to discern at times and say, no, I need to see the doctor. I need to rush to the emergency. I need to make sure that these medicines are taken on time. But I'm discerning of that. I am not running to the doctor with with anything and everything. So the point is that medicine, Western medicine as they call it, is important. One must rely on it. However, also know that that's going to aid your healing, but there's something bigger within that needs also to be there. If you do not believe that you're not going to make it, if your headache is never going to go, this is a migraine, I have got this as a child, and you know it's always there. Always when the curtains open, I have a headache, or when I smell this perfume, I have a headache. At some point, at some level, that belief has become so strong that it has started showing up. That is, it has started manifesting into a headache, into a leg pain, into graying hair, whatever that is, you know. So yeah, that's one belief. The other belief is that yeah, we are we have a lot of potential. There is a lot untapped. So yeah, I would say there are a ton of other beliefs, maybe some limiting, some non-limiting, some really good ones. But it's a good place to be curious about, I think. And that's what I have done for myself as well, is being curious. Um, I would say journaling helps big time, writing your thoughts down, and uncovering those beliefs. Obviously, my work with theta healing is has uncovered a lot of those beliefs. Some were some were funny ones, which I did not believe that that would be a part of my life, or that. But then, yes, they were sitting somewhere down there. So yeah, that's a little about my beliefs. I believe that we all can believe better. That's
Right.
a good place to start.
That's true. So, how did you uncover your beliefs? What's the process that you followed, if you did? And yeah, how was that whole journey of uncovering beliefs? Because I think that, and the question comes from the place where we all have beliefs. It's
Yeah.
just that a lot of us are not aware of them. We just operate from that place and we think that that's who we are, and that cannot change. Like, I am like this, like you said, oh, every time I open the curtain I will get a headache, so that's the person who I am. I am a person who all. So I think these are beliefs, very obvious ones. Now,
Yeah.
how does
Yeah.
one uncover them? So what was your journey on uncovering it for yourself?
Uh, so uncovering beliefs, for me, I think it again goes back to questioning. Like, is this really true? Like, when I draw the curtain open, is this really the reason that it gives me a headache? So just being curious and really questioning yourself. Really, you think that's true? I mean, if we go back just one generation, um, there were so many of those superstitions, which maybe we did not take as a generation, and our children will definitely not take. But that's what the process is, questioning. Really, like, do you really believe that? Um, so that questioning bit, and then obviously getting deeper and deeper. Like, I would love to narrate, one of my journeys in theta healing, but then that's a process that one follows. And obviously, if you work with a theta healer, you can undergo that process. But again, it's just about questioning yourself. So you could start with something and then get deeper and deeper and deeper. So one of the questions that I ask myself is, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Mhm.
You know, um, I mean, I couldn't. This must have happened in many of our lives. It has happened in my life as well, where I have applied for a job. I've been very excited about the role, about the company, about the package that I'm getting, and that curiosity brings a lot of fear. And the fear is all about, what if you don't get the job? So most often our auto response to that would be, oh my God, like what if I don't get the job? I'll not be able to pay my loan, or I'll not be able to buy whatever I wanted to buy, or I'll not be able to have the lifestyle I wanted. I can't pursue the career change that I'm looking for. But what if I not go there and ask myself, so what's going to happen if I don't get the job? Um, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Mhm.
And then you question yourself, really you will be homeless? Really, will you not be able to pay your loans at all? I mean, just question every little thing that is coming up for you, because most of those responses are, what's the word for that? They are those unguarded thoughts. They are like those running wildly in your head.
Mhm.
You do not ever question their entry into your head. You do not ever question, where are you coming from? Why are you here? What purpose are you here to serve? But we just allow them, we just give them an open entry. And you know what? We dance with those thoughts, and we sulk, and we feel sad, and we fall sick with those thoughts. So I don't know what was your question. I forgot.
The question is your journey on uncovering your beliefs. So I'm hearing it's a lot of
So
questioning that you
yes,
use.
questioning, continuously questioning, and literally, being that security guard
Mm.
at the airport who checks you if you have any metal on you. It's almost like that. So that process, I think, really, really helps. Sometimes it helps for me. I can write it down and simply asking this question. So what will happen? What will happen? What's the worst that will happen? What if this happens? And the stuff that comes out on the paper, you'd laugh at it.
Mm.
If you're talking to a friend who is narrating all those fears, you'd be like, come on, you can do better than that. But then I'm not saying anything about anybody else. I'm talking for myself and about myself that this is me.
Yeah.
If it is left unchecked, if it is left to its own, um, you know, a party that these thoughts would be having in my head.
I love what you're saying about the party of thoughts in the head and the fact that we should be like the security guard at the airport. I think that's so important and so relatable that we just leave all of these thoughts and let them just come in and flood us and don't know what to do with it, and they're having a party, but I don't know about us.
Oh, I know what's happening to us.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's a lovely way of so it's a point of questioning is what I'm getting. And you
yes.
also mentioned journaling. So can you tell me about how do you view journaling, and how do you use journaling as a way to question and uncover stuff for yourself?
Uh, so the view about journaling, I'm sure there's a lot that exists, lots of study and lots of facts related to that. But I have very close loved ones who do indulge in journaling, and they have some great benefits, especially journaling before night because we take a lot and we sleep.
Hmm.
So just putting it out there helps. For me personally, I do it in the morning when and I would say that's not a priority. My priority would be going to the gym or maybe meditating or listening to a podcast. That comes last in my priority, but I know that it's extremely important and that needs to come up the priority list.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I do write, um, it's really about pouring out all that I have in my head. So it may not be very structured that there has to be a question and then I write that, but it's really about free flowing, getting all that is there in my head out on the paper. Sometimes it's not even about going back and reading it at all. Um, Sometimes, I mean, most of the times it's really about um, unloading those thoughts. And there is, I don't know, I have not really studied that, but there is um, some benefit of actually getting it out of your system. It's almost like you've spoken to somebody and that it's being taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see the act of journaling as that. It's literally unloading stuff from your head and putting it on a paper. For me, sometimes when I have so many thoughts, especially given that the phase of life that I'm at right now, where there's so much happening, there's constantly a to-do list in my head. I got to do this, I got to go there, I need to do this for the kids, I need to do this for my coaching business, all of that. So putting it down on a piece of paper, not a to-do list, because then you bring in all your structure, which is a very known land to me. That is, put a structure, put a nice flow to it. Let's put a priority, urgent, important, all of that. I can do all of that beautifully. Get lost in it. But the point is that all you got to do is just putting it down on a piece of paper. You don't even need to go tick it or know that it's completed or not, but just having it there makes some amount of RAM or whatever you call it, the space available for you to feel better, for you to feel like, it's happening, it's taken care of.
Yeah.
Because when it's all in the head, there is nothing. I mean, you are lost, first of all. I mean, there are so many times when I have things in my head and my son or my daughter comes and speaks to me and I'm like giving them a blank stare because I got to be a good mother. I need to listen to them. But then eye contact is all that I can do because my head is somewhere else. So coming back to that point about journaling, I think for me it helps if I just write it down and I see that as just that act of unloading things from my head onto a piece of paper. I may not even go back to it. It might just be there. And the other thing that I have realized while journaling is sometimes it's almost like talking to somebody, which we often do. But while talking, sometimes you come up with this brilliant idea, or you end up answering your own question in that conversation. And that is pretty much the same thing that happens in journaling as well. When you're writing, there comes a thought, there comes an idea, there comes an answer, which is again a beautiful process. Just witnessing that happening on a piece of paper. Yeah. Another thing is when I talk about journaling, many people have, are quite tech savvy. They have things on your phone or on your laptop. Um, but I don't know. I feel comfortable doing it with a pen and a paper. I think that's what gets something happening. I don't know whether there is any kind of a scientific backing to that or not, but I feel that is a better way of letting it out.
That works for you.
That works for me. Yeah.
That works for you. Yeah. There are so many. So interestingly, I'm also a big journaling evangelist. I have a book, I have an app, I have things that I can do
nice.
on my laptop. So I've got different things work for me at different points in time.
Okay.
And I would write. I would write many years ago, and that would be my only mode. And then I started transitioning. I think, oh, that's not working, and I can't carry this book, and it's not available when I want it, and I don't want to do it.
Yes.
No, all of that. And then I transitioned, and then I realized that I don't want to spend so much time on my phone, and it's so small, and it's not really convenient to sit and type. And the flow of thought is not equal to what I'm typing. It's like there's a clash. So now I'm open to everything. I said,
that's nice.
Works at that point in time.
Yes.
I use.
True. That is a big one as well, because you can't be carrying a book and a pen everywhere, and you do have thoughts everywhere. So you might as well do with whatever is available. So that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
absolutely
right. And I'm also hearing from you that it's not that you follow a fixed time. You would prefer it in the morning, but then you journal anytime, or are you disciplined about it?
No, because it's not a priority, so I'm not disciplined about it. I pretty much do it at any time. I mean, mostly, of course, you would be at one place either in the morning or before you go off to bed. So those are the two times. But there is nothing that, I mean, probably I'm yet to explore that part of myself, but I am okay with doing it at either times of the day, morning or night.
Okay, so you're flexible. Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works.
That's lovely, lovely. So as you uncover these things, when you're talking about your main belief that came out is the fact that you can heal yourself, and you're talking about the fact that you're also a theta healer. So tell me about that journey. Because that did not come in your introduction. It came much later.
Oh, yes.
So
actually, it was hidden somewhere. It was hidden somewhere. So another fact about me is that I got introduced to healing as a modality very, very early on. So I'm also Reiki practitioner. So I did my first degree of Reiki when I was 15. That was as early as it could be. And I did it out of curiosity. Obviously, it wasn't because I was undergoing or wanting to let go of any trauma or anything, but it was just curiosity and the fact that wow, like we can do this. Like really, I can heal someone. That was fascinating to me. Um, yeah, but I mean, and I have used it for quite some years. I still use it. So that was my introduction to healing as a field on its own. Obviously, there are so many different modalities which definitely continue to fascinate me big time. Um, but when I came, when I was at this juncture, I had finished coaching. I had finished studying coaching. I was a certified coach. Um, and learning is one of my passions, I would call it, the continuous learning something or the other. So there came a point I was like, okay, I'm done with coaching. I'm pretty good with that. I love doing that. But then there was that part of me which kept on turning towards spirituality, towards something. So most of my clients as well, as life would have to have it, are quite spiritually inclined. I mean, it's not like they are but they do believe in that higher power, that there's something bigger than us, that is making things happen, that is there in force. So continuously that word was there, like somewhere in my space, spirituality. So that was when I actually met a coach friend of mine, and he was like, why don't you look at theta healing? And it was funny, it was strange that he told me this a particular evening when we met. The next morning my friend calls me and he's like, I'm wanting to work on something, and I want your advice because you have been into this healing bit, like you've done Reiki and stuff. So what works? And I was like, okay, there are so many modalities, to be honest with you. I gave him a list of it. I hung up and then was like, oh, I forgot to tell him about theta healing. So I called him up and I said, here, I've heard about theta healing and, it really works. And I've heard some great things about it. So take it on. Fine. That evening, I was meeting some ex-colleagues, and a colleague who I have worked with years ago just came. She was not a part of the group anyway. And I said, this is great. Like, let's catch up over a coffee. How about this weekend? She's like, no, I'm going for theta healing classes. This was like the third encounter with theta healing in 24 hours. So I was like, damn, what is this? Like this needs to be explored. Like, why is this coming my way 3 times in a row? And then one of my close friends and an ex-colleague had also done theta healing, and she was the one to tell me where I should go. So it was a very interesting. The moment I started with the study of theta healing, I realized that this modality speaks to me. One, because obviously there's that spiritual element there, but there is a huge scientific element as well over there, which talks about, how uh, certain beliefs are sitting at different levels of your being. So it could be, your core, your genetic, your soul, and the land imprint. And that spoke to me really well. Like, land imprint, what is that? And it when I explored that further, it is about a group of people believing in certain things. So the collective consciousness. So I mean, that's not really the scientific part of it, but there is a whole lot of scientific backing to this modality. Part of which, I mean, obviously, there are certain like hypnotherapy, for example, does tap into the same brain wave as theta healing. So it's the theta brain wave, which is again, that is the scientific part of it. So that piqued my curiosity big time. I loved what I was learning. I could see that, how the beliefs are so, um, like, we don't know where they are sitting, and it's amazing what comes up in every session. So yeah, that was my journey. I got curious, found more and more. I was enjoying that. I was enjoying being a recipient of that healing, and also being a channel to heal my other clients. And that was beautiful, what I saw happening to the clients. One of my clients actually wrote up her the whole story of theta healing. It's on my website, and it's beautiful. What she went through was just amazing. So I think the fuel kept getting added. My curiosity was fueling it as well, and I was just enjoying that ride. I still do it on a regular basis, on a daily basis. I do sit for a few minutes, and I do a theta meditation. Obviously, if I can do more, that would be great, because as you do it, you get rid of certain limiting beliefs, which you don't even know that they are there on your subconscious level, sitting there. And God knows what all is it manifesting for you.
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that's a little about my healing journey, or as a channel to be a healer. I do not call myself a healer, because at the end of the day, we all are channels for that. It's the higher power that is doing the healing. Um, but it's a beautiful space to be in.
And it ties in with your belief that we all can heal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's very interesting. Wow. Lovely. And I want to now deep dive into something that you mentioned, saying that learning is your passion and you love constantly being in that space of learning.
Yeah.
Tell me how that fuels you, and at what points did you pick up different things in your journey?
Um, so I think this has been a part of me growing up. My mom always wanted me to try out different things. So it's a joke between me and my husband that I've tried so many different classes. Now never pursued one of those, but I think that was probably my early start to looking at different things, trying different things, and getting fascinated about it. Um, but I would say, I mean, learning as such, I would probably put that into the category of human potential. That is what I love learning about. So it could be certain books, certain training courses that I have been to, but it goes back to tapping into your potential. So, I mean, what all learning opportunities I've had, definitely all the courses that I have done, for example, the coaching, healing. In coaching itself, I have learned a couple of different modalities of coaching, um, beautiful ones, because that speaks to many people who I talk to, or who I coach, or I interact with. um, the other thing that fueled it was the learning and development field itself, that I was working in. uh, One beautiful thing which you may have heard, many people would have heard, is when you teach something to someone, you learn better. I think that's what ended up happening in my 10, 15 years of L&D, learning and development experiences. I was training people on, obviously, the company culture, and all of that was part of those mandatory trainings. But what I used to love training people on was leadership skills. because there's so much there. Leadership skills has so much of that potential development, because at some point in my career, I was training individuals to become managers. So there was a certain section or a certain talented or talent that was recognized as the future leaders, and I had the opportunity to be a part of that journey for them and train them. So it was like a 6 months journey, which I used to truly enjoy, because it's just amazing to see that kind of a spirit from your learners and be able to be a partner and fuel it further. But in that part and that process, um, things that I was training them on started becoming a part of me, and that was a beautiful experience. But apart from that, I think it's that inherent curiosity of knowing and being better is what fuels it the most. So even the books I would pick up, or I mean, I just recently had the opportunity of attending Mind Valley, which was happening in Dubai. Just that rich space of meeting such wonderful people who have done such amazing things is just so rich. It's like that abundant space where that things, people have turned things upside down. Literally, they did not accept defeat. They did not accept poor conditions. They said, no, this can be better. And they made it better for themselves. And it is so inspiring to see those journeys. That is a learning in itself as well. That it's like a it's like a literal dose that you give yourself every single time you learn something, or you read a new book, or you meet a new person. Just listening to their lives in itself is so inspiring. So, yeah, I think that's a little about my passion of learning. A big piece which I am deliberately trying to make a part of my life is application of that learning, because I would say I'm guilty of that. Is learning is great. I can go for several courses. I can read so many books. I can speak to so many people. But when does that learning become um, you? Is when you apply it. And I think that's where comes the difficult part. So a big part of learning is application, and I think one must schedule time for it and be deliberate and be consciously applying that in their lives as well.
How do you do that? How do you implement all of this in your life?
So being very mindful of that as well, because when something is a passion, or um, when something has that emotional element to it, that you love it and it excites you and it's amazing, one can tend to slip into that and um, very soon get to the extreme end of it. That is, I've done so many things, and I've seen so many people. There's a term which I have not come up with, but they're called course junkies, which I'm sure you must have heard of them as well. I would not like to call myself that, but yes, if I do not consciously pay attention to it and be mindful of it, I can easily run into that. I can easily become a course junkie. So one is being mindful that, what, enough of taking it in, now it needs to be applied as well. And then maybe consciously charting time for it as well. So there was a beautiful thing of this guy who heads Mind Valley, Vishen Lakhiani. He mentioned he actually made us go to our calendars when we were there for those 2 days. Go to our calendars on the phone and schedule time and say learn something. So it could be any time. I have put it as 8 to 8:30 in my calendar in the morning, learn something. In my head, in the past few weeks, I've been thinking of putting that to apply your learning in that half an hour, and do whatever you need to do. You have such amazing mindfulness books, for example. You have theta. You are just doing the theta meditation, but how about going deeper and exploring some something that triggered you, and going deeper into it and seeing what belief is causing you to be triggered about it, you know?
Mm.
So that's sort of stuff. So being mindful, being more intentional about it. And sometimes it's like, when you stop a child, I'll give you my own example. Amazon is our playground. So, so my son is almost every other hour, he is like, okay, let me order this, let me order that. But it's almost like when you would, how you would discipline a child and say, no, that's not what we do, not at this time, not you've ordered two things this month, let's keep this for the next month. you know it's that disciplining yourself. It's the term, the instant gratification, which is quite untapped these days, and that's happening everywhere, social media, Netflix, name it. That instant gratification one needs to be wary about. I think that is where I would bring that here and say, are you just focusing on gratifying yourself, or are you putting this to use?
Mm.
So yeah, being mindful, conscious, scheduling time for application is extremely important. I think I will be soon changing the title of that calendar entry on my phone and call it apply it now. Like apply something, because there's so much that I know and there's so much that people know.
Mm.
I'm sure there is so much.
Yeah.
There are so many avenues these days. Just open Instagram, and depending on who you follow, you'll get to learn so many things.
Yes.
But it goes down to application.
Application. Yeah. And when you say application, there is also a lot of self in it, right? It's like I need to take the initiative. It all
Yeah.
comes from the, yeah, everybody can tell me a lot of things and it can look good, can feel good, all of that. But that work of, if I want to make a change, that needs to start from me. And it is work. It is,
It is,
it is,
no
yeah.
doubt.
So, how do you deal with this? And it's challenging and it's painful and it's frustrating, and all of those emotions come in. So, how do you deal with it on a daily basis or on something that you're implementing? And yeah, give us an instant that something like this happened, and what do you lean into?
So just when you were saying and asking that question, what came to me was, I'll speak for myself, because sometimes when you want to learn something, you want to master it. you know the first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh, so theta healing, if I am going to be tapping into that, I need to be this one person who has absolutely no limiting beliefs. I
Hmm.
need to showcase that, showcase myself as that, because how will believe that I'm a theta healer? But then there's always that polarity. Either you're here or you're here, nowhere in the middle.
Hmm.
And that is an illusion. That is what people, uh, uh, always, I would say most of the times, fall into that trap of either being here or being here. So either you're a beginner or you're a master. The middle part, not many people like.
Hmm.
Like I would say this about my mom. She always wanted to learn English. She was a native Indian language speaker, and she had very little exposure to English language as a student or as even a graduate. But my father spoke pretty well, and all of us spoke pretty well because we went to the English speaking schools, and we had friends. And she admired all these English speakers. She made an attempt to learn the language as well from a couple of tutors, but she always wanted to just continue, like speak fluently the second day of the class. She hated to learn grammar and punctuations and all of that. She's like, this is too much of work. I don't want to do this. I want to be a fluent speaker. That's one of the traps that we fall into. That is, we wanting to be something really good without the hard work.
Mhm.
Um, so what I have done whenever I have wanting to apply something is the mantra, one step at a time.
Mhm.
And it's literally that. Sometimes one of my friends had narrated a story where she'd gone to New Zealand and she'd climbed a mountain, and she's not a climber at all. Like she's not an athlete. But one of her native friends from there, she told her that our family is going for an excursion. Why don't you join? And all of that. So she arranged for her shoes and everything. And there came a point where she was climbing the rock and she was far up. When she looked down, she was scared. She was frightened to see what she was seeing. But when she looked where she was also not so comforting because it was quite narrow. The path for her to go from where she was to her friend was extremely narrow.
Okay.
But they had a person who was a guide with them, and the guy knew that she's a beginner. She's not even like close to where these guys are. Um, and he constantly told her. So imagine being at that height and having a very narrow path. He said, one step at a time. And when she
Mhm.
narrated that story, it was like, it makes so much sense. We
Mhm.
have this illusion of seeing the end and we starting the end with the end in mind and all of that, and we can drop these amazing goals. But little do we see the journey in the middle from here to there.
Yeah.
And in that journey also, if we take that as a fact that we are going to only look at today, and we are only going to look at this morning, and let's look at only this hour, and let's look at this journey, and let's look at this minute. It's literally narrowing your focus to that moment
Yeah.
and doing it small bits by bits, because that's how things work. That's how things mount up to becoming whoever whatever people are.
Yeah.
The images that we see on Instagram or wherever, that people have achieved such an amount of successes, but little do we know the back end and how much of hard work they have put into that. That is not published, and that nobody would like to publish because it is not pretty. But that's the work, and everybody puts in that work. Nobody gets lucky overnight. So, coming back to myself, that's my mantra. That is one step at a time, one day at a time. Um, and also holding it, my coach used to say, um, there was a way she used to say it, but hold it lightly. Like
Mhm.
whatever that intention is. For example, you want to learn this and you want to learn this for this reason. You want to become a certified XYZ. Hold it lightly. Like, don't put so much pressure on yourself, because when you do that, obviously you're not going to achieve what you need to achieve today.
Mhm.
So hold it there lightly. Don't forget about it, but don't put so much pressure today on yourself that you would not reach tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it comes down to application, taking one step at a time. And another important bit is having the faith. That is, I'm doing this. This is going to result into something beautiful. Period.
Got it.
So yeah, that's my story of application, um, and what goes on behind the scenes.
That's lovely. And how is this helping you in the phase of life that you are in right now? Because you mentioned that you're leaving Dubai, and it's a phase of big change for you. How is all this helping you? And I'm imagining a lot of stuff that is going on in terms of it. It must be very chaotic.
It
Changing
is.
countries is not changing houses is tough. Changing countries is a different ball game altogether.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
how are you dealing with this chaos and being okay with it or not okay?
So I would put that as a metaphor, almost like a picture that I would like to draw. So imagine you are running a chariot. You're that person who is controlling all those horses, and instead of four, you have like 4,000 horses, and you're bringing all of them. You're raining of getting them all to do what you want them to do, but most importantly is keeping them in one place.
Hmm.
So those 4,000 horses are basically my thoughts, and I'm constantly bringing them back. So sometimes not all of them come back, but then I'm here.
Hmm.
So the practice of mindfulness is what helps me. And again, the practice of mindfulness, taking one step at a time, is all saying the same thing in different languages. Lean into right now. That is all that you have. Tomorrow would change, could change, may change. You never know. The next moment may change. But what you have is really, really right now. And I think this has been said enough times. But once again, it is not about learning, it's not about hearing, it's about applying. So sometimes I literally visualize that, like just come back to this space and time. Just be here, breathe, um, feel where you are sitting. Uh, Notice how your feet are on the floor. Notice how your hands are resting wherever they are resting. Notice your back. Notice your posture. Notice all to do with mindfulness techniques. So just coming into the space and time, and um, having the belief that everything that actually I have written this on my, I have a monitor here and I have these post-it notes. My screen is blurred, so you may not be able to see it, but it says everything will fall in place in divine order. Breathe. So, yeah, chaos. I mean, given my situation or given any person's situation right now, I think we all can call ourselves people in chaos. Um, but it's about how we come back, how we catch ourselves.
Hmm.
That's our first step. How we catch ourselves, how we say this is not okay, how we say come back, and we be back, and we really be back.
Yeah.
It's easy to slip into the number of thoughts that I have. It's easy to just get up from my chair and get in the car and go do something. But I mean, it's not about not taking action. Action is absolutely a must, which I'll probably come to at some point in our conversation. But not spreading yourself too thin and not letting yourself be in every damn direction that you want to be in
Hmm.
um, is also a thing to be noted.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go to
Yeah.
a contrast. So one is about being mindful and being present, and the second one is taking action. It's like following through. So tell me about
Yeah.
that.
So before I tell you about that, I think there's there's this beautiful dance happening between the two,
Hmm.
and we got to hear the music. We got to tune into the music. And when I say that, what I mean is, once again, go within, and really make that discernment, really discern for yourself. When I say discern, the difference, I'll just make it clear to most people. we often use the word judge for ourselves,
Mm.
or judge the situation, judge the people. But judgment has this a little bit of a negative connotation as well, because we judge people and we judge out of ego. And there's a lot of drama attached to it as well. So when you cut that drama and when you say things for what they are, objectively, that's pretty much discernment. So an example of judgment would be, oh, uh, I look so ugly. Um, versus discernment would be, I have put on a few kgs and I have not slept well last night. And that's probably the reason I have puffy eyes and I've not been drinking water. That almost gives us a way of handling that situation and not just mindlessly blaming something or someone.
Mm.
So discern for yourself, should I sit? Should I take action? So coming back to your question is, and my answer about tuning into the music and dancing to that tune is knowing when the chaos is too much in your head and then taking a pause and saying, you know what, let's breathe. This is going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And if I'm okay, people around me will be okay. So let's breathe. Everything is okay. I'm going to, you know, get control over the situation at some point. Everything is going to fall in place in divine order. And then comes that other bit when we got to take action. So it may not be the next moment you take action, but in the background, there is something happening.
Mhm.
Now, that dialogue is very different than this one. That dialogue is mostly about procrastination. No, I don't like to do this. I hate to do this. Like I don't want to go out, because they all that they do is they talk about fashion and they talk about groceries, and I don't want to go there and procrastinate that or procrastinate a task. I hate doing paperwork. I hate filing papers, whatever that is. Procrastination, and the other player in this game is perfection. So wait till I get the perfect whatever, a perfect outfit to wear for that party, or perfect line that I want to put on Instagram, or the perfect visual that will make my post look beautiful, whatever that perfect thing is.
Mm.
I think these are the two major ones. I'm sure there are many others that will stop us from taking action.
Yeah.
But what I have realized is in the last couple of instances, one being this podcast itself, and the other one was making a meeting happen between me and my friend, which I just went out and I said, you know what, let's meet tomorrow. Let's meet at this place. Let's meet at this time, and let's make it happen, no matter
Mm.
what the circumstances are. And we made that happen. Similarly, this podcast as well. So, this could have taken easily a 6 months to a year for us to perfect and write a script and be the best form and shape that we are in. But thank you, Bindhu, for doing that and saying, you know what, let's do it. This is the time. We do it on Zoom. We make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think that is that tune I'm talking about
Mm.
is Bindu, for you or for me, if there was something really drastic happening in our lives, we for sure would not have made it over here.
Yeah.
We would have prioritized it. However, discerning when are those little thoughts about perfection and about the right time and the right makeup and the right dress and the right whatever weather conditions, discerning that that's the voice,
Mm.
and we can get that voice out and say, no, I'm going to do this today. This is the time, this is the place. We are going to do this, and we are going to get this out of our way because there's a purpose behind it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the driving factor is. Why are we doing this? How do we want to influence, impact? there are many listeners who are going to listen to this podcast, who are going to view this. Um, I think it's extremely important to have that come from place for us to set in action. Um, Similar stuff happening with my coaching practice as well. I've had several tries of being out there, but this one has is fueled. This time, the try is fueled by something else. The voice is, if not now, then when? You know, um, I had a unfortunate incident a month ago. My colleague, an ex-colleague, passed away, and that made me question that. You know what, Preeti, you're not here forever. Um, Once you fall sick or whatever happens, it's beyond your control sometimes. Um, and that is it. That's the end of this form being there.
Yeah.
And letting this form channel whatever needs to be channeled for whoever is listening, even if it impacts one person or 1 million people, you're making that happen.
Yeah.
And that is why I said, nothing doing, I'm taking the steps, I am setting myself into action, I'm going to go out there. Whether I'm in my perfect shape, form, age, hair, all of that, or not. I need to be heard.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to hear me, and I want to reach out to them.
Right.
So, yeah, that is the fine tuning, that the dance between holding yourself, catching all those thoughts and sitting with them, being okay with not being okay. And then the other aspect of it is taking action, doing what you need to do when you need to do, without all those um, um, useless, mindless voices or things that you have in your to-do list as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that is so relatable what you said. It's like you just spoke my thoughts and probably a lot of people's thoughts where, yeah, we wait for that perfect moment, the perfect thing to happen when everything aligns. And I don't think that ever exists. I was
No.
reading this book, I am reading this book by Brené Brown on Daring Greatly, and there she mentions that in all the interviews and she's a researcher, right? In all the interviews that she's done, perfection has never come as one of the life's learnings. It's always come in the way of getting something done.
Yeah.
That was like, yeah, that's true. But then we're constantly waiting for that perfect moment. And when you and I spoke about this yesterday, and that actually came to my mind. I want to give credit to that book that I'm reading, because then I'm like, no, this is the perfect moment, and the perfect moment is now. Let's
Yeah.
just do it.
Well done
So
on applying that reading, by the way.
because otherwise it's coming in the way, right? It will be like,
Yeah.
whenever the right time is, it'll be done. I'm like, no, now is the right time, and let's just do it. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's
Exactly.
so relatable, and I think lots of us need to pick that up and say that, okay,
Yeah.
now is a perfect moment, and let's just do it. Yeah, so this is a
True.
good, great example. And being comfortable with that, right? Being
Yeah.
comfortable with the discomfort. I think that's the hard one. Being comfortable with in that discomfort and saying that, okay, I don't know what I'm going to say. This is the first time I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to do it. Let's see
Yeah.
what happens.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Yeah.
what's
I
the
think it's
worst? What's
about
the
that.
worst that can happen? I love what you said.
What's the worst?
Yeah.
Nobody can throw tomatoes at us.
I love that. I love that. So while we're in the
Yeah.
topic of books, what are the books that inspire you, Preeti?
My all-time favorite is The Power of Subconscious Mind.
Mm.
A beautiful book which I had read long, long years ago. Probably I should read it again. Um, Obviously, I'm a self-help section bookshelf junkie, I would say. Um, so I love reading those kind of books. That's the genre I would love to read. Um, I have tried, of course, reading some of the fiction as well. I used to read fiction, but not so much. I mainly indulge in nonfiction. Uh, so that is my favorite book. The ones that I'm reading currently are Atomic Habits. Um, that is a beautiful book. I think Bindhu, you had posted something about it very recently, right?
Love it, yeah.
Um, that's a beautiful book. Very much, very practical, and it gives you exactly what you must do if you were to kind of change your habits or create new ones. That's a beautiful one. Another one that I read very recently, and I would like to buy the book that is originally, talking about this concept. But I happened to read the second one. It's called "It's Not Your Money," and this is especially to those who have a lot of limiting beliefs around money, wealth, abundance, financial abundance. I mean. It's written by Tosha Silva, and it's a beautiful book. Again, very practical. You can put those steps to use. But the book that I want to read on which this concept is actually originating from is called Outrageous Openness. And that goes back to what I was speaking to, is really putting it out there. Um, you know, whatever it is, ask for it, and it shall happen. It sounds very, it sounds very fairyland kind of a thing, but um, how I have understood it is that we have this illusion of control, and we think that we can do it and we can make it happen. And that's what we were talking about earlier on in this conversation as well, about uh, not seeking help. So, with that illusionary control that we have, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. um, we blame ourselves, we criticize ourselves, we belittle whatever we have done so far. So when you when you let go of that control, when you let go of that thing that I have to make this happen, you release a certain amount of pressure off you, and you let go. You just say it out to whoever it is, and funny enough, it also happens. So what more do you want? But I think that's a book one must read. Outrageous Openness. At least read the blurb. Probably what I'm saying will be, you know will be across to you, what the book is all about. So yeah, that's a little about books. I have read some of the ones that I just have actually the bookshelf right here, next to me. Um, One that I have loved absolutely in the recent books that I've read is The Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and that's again the same. It's about her tagline says creative living beyond fear, and that goes back to lifting that control, lifting that I have to do this.
Mm.
Creativity doesn't happen that way. You can't write the most creative piece of work while you're putting that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
So letting go. So that was a beautiful book. One must read. Deep Work is another one by New Calport. Um, Beautiful book, because then that busts so many of our ways of working these days. Tons of emails, answering them, messages, phone, mobile, social media, all of that. It's really good. He has actually made references to a few people, one of them being, I don't want to get there actually. It's an author of a very famous book, so I'm not going to get there, but that a very, very known personality, how these people have taken time off. Carl Jung as well. Have these people taken time off from their city living and gone and lived in a very remote place where sometimes there's no electricity as well, where they live as per the sunrise and the sunset, and that's all that they have, and they create the most amazing pieces of work. That's what he has covered in deep work. So yeah, that's some of the books which I have read. Absolutely fascinating again. Same thing, human potential, capabilities, how much can be done by us is truly fascinating.
Yeah, totally, totally. And what's fascinating for me when you've listed these books is how do you get yourself to sit and read these books with so much distraction around you?
So I have to share this, which my coach had mentioned, and she's an amazing person, very successful as well. I think she had shared this term with me, maybe not a new term, or maybe not something that she has invented, called a book snob. And I pretty much related with that when she called herself and myself a book snob. Is any person who reads the book from one end to the other and does not, does not choose to cheat on that book with another book is a book snob, basically. And
Okay.
from that one end to the other end, it would probably take me a year sometimes, because I have had extremely busy life with working, two children and all of that. It's just now that I'm not on a full-time job. Um, I think the way I have overcome that is not being a book snob, that is not putting myself under that pressure that I have to finish this from one page to the other.
Mm.
uh, Page by page, I have to read, I have to make notes. I don't do that anymore. I do read it. I do make notes whenever I feel like I could take this and apply it the next day or week later. Um, I do have multiple books that I'm reading. Sometimes I read one at night. Sometimes I take a book when I'm going out. For example, if I'm going meeting somebody for a coffee and they are probably late, I could bring that up and read it. So it's really, again, letting go of that perfection and control, and finding times in between things. It doesn't have to be always before you go to sleep. It could be anywhere in the middle. I could probably be doing that after our call today, maybe just between now and food, lunch. So it could, again, um, it's not being so hard and fast about it. So yes, unfortunately, I am not able to set those ambitious goals for myself where people say, some people read 52 books a year, which is almost one per week. Some people read 365. I have heard of people reading a book a day or so,
Yeah.
which is amazing, which is amazing. It's doable if one puts their head to it. But I'm not putting that much pressure right now on myself. I am taking it easy. I'm loving the books that I'm reading, and I'm just going with the flow. There are times when I can read 40 pages in one go. There are times when I can read 10. So being fluid about it, I think, helps.
I love the fact that you're, yeah, fluid about it and not saying that it needs to be in a particular way.
Yeah. But again, what I have realized is my 14-year-old should hate me if she hears me saying this, but I'm just taking that as an example. Of 14-year-old can be me, for example, or anybody else. But the reason why I'm taking her example is because of the generation that they are in, where they have so many things. Netflix is constantly loading up data, content, constantly. A series may have 5 seasons with 40 episodes in one season. endless amount of entertainment, right? So as much as I would like to call it fluid and I would like to give myself that fluidity, I would also like to have that discipline, discernment, and say, you know what, I'm going to watch one episode of that series today. I'm not going to binge watch, and I'm going to read. So having that balance
Hmm.
really helps. Otherwise, it's again very easy to go down that slippery slope and binge watch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's great advice to, I think, everybody. That's great advice to the younger generation who are born in this space, right? For
yeah,
us, I feel we kind of are able to see the difference
yeah,
to a certain extent. But for the younger generation, they're born in the internet world, in the
true.
world of Netflix. This is what they know. So
Yeah,
for them to for us to kind of tell them this is one and there is another way, because
yeah,
this is their world. So I think that's yeah, that's it's great advice about the balance. It's not about one or the other. It's not about,
yeah,
oh, you're never supposed to binge watch or you're always supposed to be disciplined. There's that in
yeah.
between space, which is, I
It's
think,
the
the big.
balance, and that goes with food as well. By the way, it applies everywhere. One great advice. In fact, this is coming from someone else. It's not mine. Um, there's a beautiful nutritionist. She's amazing. She told me when I had gone and consulted her is there's no harm in treating yourself once in a while. And when I say, so she avoids the word treat as well because that should not be associated with food. Food is not to be seen as entertainment or as a treat. So food does a job, that is, it nourishes you. And that is all it should be doing. However, we do have our whims and fancies, and we would like to indulge in something once in a while, which is fine. However, where should it come from is within. It shouldn't be driven by an advertisement that you saw driving on Sheikh Zayed Road, for example. It shouldn't be because somebody forced you into it, or it's an in thing to eat Japanese cuisine or McDonald's or whatever that is. Let it not be an external factor, let it be internal, and do not have guilt associated with that. But that doesn't mean that you guilt-free eat McDonald's or eat an ice cream every single day. But have that balance and let that come from within is what she mentioned, and I found that very beautiful, being
Yeah.
very mindful of what
Mm.
am I what am I wanting today. And funny enough, most of the times the want is to feel good, and that feeling is not just feel good after a big burger, because nobody feels good after a big burger, by the way.
Nobody.
Or nobody. So the feel good is about actually a healthy meal or a healthy something which will leave you feeling like you've eaten something and yet you feel energetic. So that's the feel good I was talking about. So that uh, inner dialogue is important, whether it's reading, it's Netflix, it is food, anything at all. That's a great come from place.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, I love it. It's really, really, it's awesome. Left me thinking. Awesome. Now we're going to do something fun.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to do something that I'm calling like a 55-second game. And I'm going to ask you, what's would you rather? Right? So
Would
I'm just
rather.
going to
Okay.
ask you a couple of questions. I'm going to start the timer. And I'm
Okay.
going to just ask you, it's just fun. Just whatever comes to your mind, just go ahead and answer. So it's going to be would you rather? I'll give you two options, choose one. And I won't
Okay.
ask you why.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, so here we go. So would you rather be rich or be popular?
Love it. Rich.
Would you rather have the ability to see 10 minutes into the future or 150 years into the future?
10 minutes.
Would you rather be chronically underdressed or overdressed?
Overdressed.
Would you rather have universal respect or unlimited power?
Universal respect.
Would you rather give up air conditioning and heating for the rest of your life or give up internet for the rest of your life?
Internet.
Would you rather like to swim in a pool of Nutella or a pool full of maple syrup?
Oh God, Nutella.
Thank you.
That was nice. I loved it. I wish you could keep it coming. I would have loved to answer more.
You just got into the groove into the 15, 20
Yeah,
seconds, I realized.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Good,
that's
really
lovely.
nice. I love the questions.
Any thoughts that you think that we would like to cover before we kind of wind up?
Uh, I think for me, I mean, it's amazing how the present day me is a product of so many years. So if I say even the current lessons that I am following or the things that I'm following are a product of so many years and so many people and so many lessons and so many teachings I have had. So I would say, I think given the number of things each one of us is managing today, taking one step at a time is literally what it is. So, as much as I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself as well. Take it one step at a time. Do what you can, do your best,
Hmm,
and leave the rest.
yeah,
It will be taken care of in a much beautiful manner than you can.
right.
So those are two things I would really say is whenever and wherever you can lean into the power, give in and believe that you can do it and that you can heal and you can be better and yeah, the just the limitless potential that you have. It's amazing.
Lovely, lovely. Love those lessons. Absolutely. And any closing thoughts on or any feedback for me, for this podcast, for the listener, any things?
No feedback as such, really. I mean, this was a lovely experience, Bindu. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Um, as you may have seen, I loved talking. I, I love talking in general when it comes to these kind of topics. So thank you once again for this forum. Um, I genuinely loved how the space that you've created in terms of you listening, in terms of the questions. Uh, and that little cherry on the top was perfect. The 55 seconds thing that you did was the cherry. So thank you very much, Bindu. I really hope the listeners enjoy this episode of the podcast. Take away something. Uh, if nothing, please apply whatever you have learned from whoever you have learned. That is what will get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Great, great. Thank you very much. And how can people reach out to you?
I do have an Instagram handle. It's called, and my coaching practice is called Inwardly It Is. So the word inwardly, that is coming inward, it is because inwardly it is pretty much the answer to every question, to every trigger, to every trauma, to everything that we have pretty much going on. So inwardlyitis.com is my website. And that's how you would find it on Instagram as well. Would love to hear from you guys. I'm on LinkedIn as well as Preeti Wale Sagar. So for anything and everything, I mean, feel free to get in touch if you just want to have a chat or talk about something significant in your life.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Preeti. I had a lovely time having the conversation. It was just so free flow. And like we said, we'll just wing it, right?
Yes, yes, and we winged it.
So it's
Thank
been,
you, Bindu.
yeah, thank you
Thanks a
very
lot.
much. Absolute pleasure. And I'm so glad we did this.
I know. Same here. Same here.
As we conclude this episode of Unmasked, we're grateful for your time and attention. We hope our conversation with Preeti has sparked valuable insights for your personal journey of growth. To connect with Preeti and explore further, find her on Instagram at inwardly.it.is. We're committed to delivering the best content possible, and your feedback is essential to that mission. Let us know what you enjoyed, what truly resonated with you, and if there are any people who you would like us to have a conversation with. Please follow us on Instagram at podcast.unmasked and drop us a comment. Your thoughts and suggestions matter greatly to us. Thank you for being part of the Unmasked community. Until next time, stay curious and keep growing. Thanks for tuning in.